It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to wake up, then come.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Today's episode is such a special one. I had my dear sister and friend, Wryn Magdalyn, on. In editing this episode, I was so excited. I was learning so much. When I was interviewing her, I feel like I was so immersed in the conversation, I wasn't taking it all in. And in editing this episode, like this conversation is truly medicine. Wryn is an explorer of the infinite, and she's dedicated to expanding consciousness and guiding others through awakening experiences that bring deep transformation. Originally, I had planned to talk to Wryn about a different topic, about the divine feminine, discernment, and a really juicy yet healthy, balanced, reverent version of spirituality. But Wryn had just had a profound experience in the dark room. So we decided to talk about that instead. And we dive into her entire experience. For those unfamiliar, this practice is like entering the womb, the cocoon, complete darkness and silence. And in this space, you can bear witness to the light of your true self. So we discuss the power of stillness in the dark, but also in meditation, the fear that arises when we finally face our own minds, and why this might be one of the most fail-proof ways to move through deep spiritual initiation. Whether you're on a path of self-discovery or curious about darkroom retreats, or just to hear wisdom from a shared conversation between sisters, balancing modern life and spirituality, then this episode has something for you. It's my great pleasure to introduce Wryn Magdalyn. Here we are. Hi, Wryn. How are you?
I'm so good. So good to see you.
You too. It is so good to see you. We've talked a couple times in the past few weeks, which has been so special as you are in Mexico. You have just come out of the dark room, the dark for 4 or 5 days, was it?
Yeah, 4 days, 5 nights. It's one less day because you go in at night and you come out before dawn. Uh,
Okay.
so it's really like 4 full days that I was in there and 5 nights.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. I'm so excited to get into it. I have the pleasure and the absolute blessing of knowing you from our spiritual community in Asheville. I met you kind of on your home turf in Floyd, Virginia, as we were gathering with this same community for a retreat. This was a weekend long retreat, and I think we had been in one night together. Maybe that it was the Friday evening into the Saturday, and everyone kind of has their bearings, and you're sitting in a deep meditative space with people, so you're really sharing intimate energy, and in that way, like you sort of like size up who's in the room, just taking a look in a very natural way. And this was, I believe, no, this was my second time in this community setting. So it's kind of seeing who I recognize, who's a new face, and you were a new face, but you immediately caught my attention. You were just like radiant and confident and just holding space. And so Saturday rolls around and they have the spigot. And I think this was early spring and it was freezing cold. So I like doing a cold plunge under the spigot, and you come do one too. And then you just like open your pants to like get the water and it's gushing in. And I'm like, oh, she goes hard. I was like, here I am thinking I'm like, oh, like, getting the full effect of it. And you're like, nah, let it get in there. Oh my gosh. And then even more so, I was
Spigot
like,
moment. This is like a frost-free spigot that's outside, coming up out of the ground, and it's just right outside the space. And we just open it up and it's just gushing this ice cold water. And there we are underneath it and trying to get water all over us to have this kind of woo, Wim Hofy ice bath experience. Yeah, it was great.
In that moment, I was like, oh yeah, she's a badass. I was like, even more so than I picked up from her general energy. But I was like, we're very much on the same wavelength here. And turns out we really are. And over the past couple years of us both, being closely intertwined in Truth Is One and in Asheville, it's just been such a pleasure to get to know you. And you have really changed my life in so many ways. And so I reached out to you a couple weeks ago because I wanted to introduce you to some of my following in a way that helps clarify some spiritual subjects that we've talked about over the years, and that again really have changed the trajectory of the path that I've taken. And more importantly, like we're talking about, you're having an experience of your own coming out of the dark room. So I want to focus on that. But I guess this, balance of the divine feminine and discernment and like a healthy, but also juicy, vibrant version of spirituality. This is what we'll get into a little bit today, and maybe we will tease for another time in more detail. So let's just start with the basics. What is this? What and why?
Okay, yeah. So a dark room retreat is just like what it sounds. It's a room. It's like a hotel room. In this particular case, there are a few different varieties. I think it kind of stems from a yogic lineage of going into the cave and having intimate time with yourself or with the self in darkness. And so, in this particular setting here in Mexico, Mazunte, Mexico, I'm on the beautiful Oaxacan coast, and it's just an absolutely magical vortex. And I'm so grateful to be here. This is there's a few different dark rooms retreats offered here, but this one that I went to is a simple kind of hotel space. It's in below ground, so it's kind of the basement of the hotel, and it's got a little door and kind of drops down into a room, a very simple room with a single bed and a desk and a toilet and a shower and a yoga kind of meditation space. And the thing about this room is that no light can get in. It's been designed to remove all light, so no cracks in the door. There's dark curtains over the door frame to make sure no cracks get in. There's a box in the wall that opens from the outside and then can deliver you food or tea. And then you open it on the inside and then you bring your food and no light gets in that way either. So it's an opportunity to just really immerse yourself in utter darkness. And this is the kind of darkness that, you can't see your hand in front of your face, and you feel your way around, you feel with your feet, you see with your feet as you're moving around the space. And there's some peculiarities and some funny things that can happen in there. But the general sense of what a darkroom retreat is a time to really surrender to the darkness and to be with oneself and to have a very meditative experience, and a continual meditative experience throughout your time there. There's no escaping it, there's no distractions, there's no phones, and even like the beauty of the world can be mesmerizing and in some ways distracting. And it's not that we're not supposed to have these light-filled moments, but when we do take time to close the eyes, to go into meditation, and to turn off all of the external stimulus, then anyone who's experienced meditation knows that there is a great nourishment in this practice. And so a dark room is just an extension of that nourishment.
Yeah. Well, what an extension. I mean, to be in that space and that setting for even 24 hours would be difficult, let alone 4 or 5 days. And I love what you said about surrender to the darkness because this hit me in two really clear ways. I mean, yes, literally surrendering to your set and setting and exactly what's going on in that moment. But in a spiritual sense, this is the ebb and flow of life itself, and especially of the spiritual process. There are these waves of darkness that give way to such a dawn, like all these little ego deaths that happen throughout our life. And if we can just surrender to that process, we can know there's something so beautiful on the other side. And so yeah, that little part of what you said just really, really hit me strong. And I feel like whether or not you are holding a specific intention entering into the darkness, if there is darkness that you are carrying, hoping to transmute, like you're bound to run into something deep or heavy, some sort of shadow when you're spending that much time in solitude. Oh, I have so many questions here. So I guess before I get into like your personal experience, is this facility part of a larger retreat center or it's standalone? And are these common throughout the world? Like how many of these exist?
Well, I'm not a darkroom expert. There are definitely some Google searching you can do about it.
Great.
And I have done a little bit. Part of my preparation, a friend of mine was like, get yourself kind of hyped up on some podcasts about dark rooms or some interviews or some articles. And that did really help. I watched Aubrey Marcus's documentary, and I listened to a number of different podcasts, and just got some familiarity. There is a darkroom retreat in Oregon in the United States it's a lot more pricey than the one here, and kind of puts it out of my, or maybe many people's budget.
Mhm.
But it seems like a very beautiful, kind of more the Ritz-Carlton of dark rooms.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
a little bit, yeah, this is
Which is kind of silly
in a
because like
concrete
you're in
room,
the dark.
with a very simple, well, the linens are not as going to be as nice at the one that I went to. And there's probably some thread count that's higher in
Yeah.
certain dark rooms than other dark rooms, which is going to make a difference in your sensory experience.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you're, taking away sight, everything else is heightened. So that's
Right. So
valid.
there is definitely validity to having a nice sensory experience. And for
Mhm.
me, this one felt very good. I had done it before, so it had the familiarity of, I was in the same room. It turned out to be in the same room that they have three here at this facility. And
Mhm.
it's right next door to a spiritual community called Ridaya. And this
Mhm.
is a yoga center that I have done some extensive intensive yoga modules and meditation retreats at. They have around the year a nice cycle of yoga intensives, and then every month 10-day silent meditation retreats, and
Mhm.
then another cycle of yoga, and then another 10-day. So this goes, I think there's 12 10-day meditation retreats throughout the year. and
Mm.
and then the 10-day you can extend to 17-day, and then you can also, advanced sitters can do 49-day
Oh
silent
wow.
meditation retreats, and they have dark room dark rooms there, that so you could do a 10-day silent meditation retreat that's facilitated, with a group. And there's actually a lot of talking in a silent meditation retreat by the people that are facilitating it. So
Mm.
a lot of people choose to go into the dark room after the 10 days of preparation for some real true silent time. And
Mhm.
so this is often done in conjunction with a more formalized silent meditation retreat. And
Mm.
I didn't do that this time, but I did go over there each day and sit in silent meditation with the group in the mornings, and then do the yoga classes. So it was about 3 hours of meditation in the morning that I did in preparation for the dark room for about 5 days before I went into the dark room. And I think that this really helped my experience. It also helped that I had been there before and done yoga intensives. And so it all came back kind of like riding a bike. It's like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. I know how to sit in silence. I know how to be with myself. I know how to be background of awareness. I know how to expand my consciousness and be with all that's here. So that was very helpful for my process, but it's still going into the dark room. Like before you receive any kind of major initiation or rite of passage or big medicine of some kind, there's fear that arises because you're about to go through a transformation and there are parts that will die. And this was not lost on me. I was feeling quite a bit of anxiety about going into the dark room and reaching out to the people that I loved and asking them to light a candle for me and to say prayers for me, and also sending a lot of prayers to all the people that I loved and letting them know that I would be praying with them while I was in this space. And this really also helped my experience, just to know that there were people that were very near and dear to my heart that were praying with me, and that we were kind of in there together.
Definitely.
Very helpful for my experience. But yeah, I mean, even right up to that final hour before going in, I decided to go in at sunset. And so I went up on the roof of the hotel, and it's just this vast, beautiful view of the ocean and the sun setting over the ocean, and just basked in that for at least an hour, maybe 2 hours. The sun set, and I was like, okay, well, actually there's still now golden light, so I'm gonna watch this part of the sunset. And then
really drawing
okay, time to get into the dark room. I'm like, I still see some light. I'm gonna stay out here a little bit longer. So I really just could feel this trepidation that I had about actually entering into the space. And then when I did go in, I lit a candle and kind of got my things set up. You want to know where your shampoo is and where your toothbrush is, and make sure you know the spot for everything, because that's the home that it's going to live in while you're in there, so you can find it again.
Right.
So just kind of setting up my space to know where all my things were, and I even paced the room, counted the 5 paces to the door, and then 5 paces to the toilet, and then 5 paces over to the yoga mat. Just to kind of get my bearings. And then I did have this very beautiful, intimate experience with the candle and the last of the light, and saying my prayers, and then blowing out that candle into the darkness.
Wow.
And immediately I felt this relief wash over me. Like, oh, I know this. This is very familiar. This is actually the safest place I've ever been. This is the womb of the Divine Mother, the darkness of the void. And it was just that first little taste that just set my fears and released my fears. And yes, I knew it would still be a journey. And yes, there will be shadow parts, and there will be lots of mind stuff and trickery that will want to come in and get to be seen and felt and heard. But I did have that sense, and I like to offer this to other people that might have similar fears approaching such a initiation. That there is just such a familiarity, a deep familiarity to the darkness, because we all came from the womb. We all have experienced at least 9 months in the darkness, or give or take.
Oh,
So
it's so beautiful.
that's something that was very profound for me, and really gave me such a sense of ease and deep relaxation.
Hmm.
I knew I was safe, and that the darkness is actually one of the most safe places we've ever known.
Hmm. There, I got chills when you talked about blowing out the candle because it is that threshold of entering the unknown. And even though you've done it before, it still is just all this projection of the imagination of what we're going to encounter, what we might experience, and then to drop into nothing but that present moment. There is that overwhelming sense of peace and ease. And I think it sounds like that's what you were met with. And I also want to kind of elaborate on that because, again, this discussion is for people who might be brand new to meditating. They might not even have a daily practice. And so, approaching meditation, let's like take the dark retreat out of the conversation for a second. It is that fear, though, of encountering what's within, encountering the unknown inside of us, let alone
Yeah,
all the
or the
way out
very
there.
known and the very loud and sometimes very mean voices that
Yeah.
are within us.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, what would you say to someone who might be new to this whole world who is actually avoiding that exact encounter, whether it's in a daily practice in daily life or potentially having the opportunity for such an initiation, such a coming home experience, but they're avoiding it because they don't want to go there.
Yeah, I would like to say it's worth it. It's worth
Hmm.
it. I'll quote Will Smith's grandmother, who I love to quote Will Smith quoting his grandmother. Uh, said, "Baby, all the best things in life lie on the other side of fear,"
Yeah.
and that has really stuck
Amen.
with me. That when these fears arise, it's usually telling us that there's a threshold that and and wonderful things are on the other side of that threshold, because these thresholds, they lead us to higher states of consciousness and deeper levels of awareness, and more bliss, more joy, more expansion available to us to be able to experience more of life.
Hmm.
And there's so many in life that, there's so many thresholds of, even just like emerging from the womb, or learning to crawl, or learning to talk, or learning to walk, or learning to run. Like, each one comes with its bumps and its bruises and its fears and its trepidation, but they're all helping us, shaping us, and expanding our ability to be in the world more fully, and
Hmm.
also out of the world more fully. So
Hmm.
yeah, I would just say that, one, it's absolutely worth it to explore and face these fears, and also from a place of from a place of a kind of a loving awareness, where instead of turning away from something that might be tormenting, you turn towards it, and you embrace it in a loving way. Like, oh, I see you. I know this part of me that wants to give me a hard time, or wants to
Hmm.
fantasize about this or that, perfect life, and
Hmm.
compare my existence to some alternate existence, and just being able to turn towards those parts, and
Hmm.
offer them a safe haven. Let
Hmm.
them be here.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's okay. Maybe it's okay that they're here, as long as they're not dominating
yeah.
space and dominating uh, your identity.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's such a nuanced relationship because it is holding space for all of you, your fears, your trepidations, your uncertainty, like offering the self so much compassion. It's not easy being human, but to also know when to put the self in its place and just get up and do the thing. Like, what is on the other side of fear? What is on the other side of this experience that's waiting for me? And like, that's the real compassion is offering yourself the possibility that there might actually be something better, more aligned, more exciting, more joyful, more free out there for you if only you can kind of get out of your own way in all of it.
Like
And
they say, the masters, the ones who have farther along on the path, the ones who are obviously emitting a blissful glow and presence, that have something that you want, that have something about them that seems enticing or exciting or possible. That's what they say the path is to be in meditation, to be able to sit with oneself, and then to extend this meditation into our everyday life, so that our eating is a meditation. We're present with our processes. We're present with our choices. We're present with our surroundings. We're not as much caught in the distractions of being entertained or the kind of endless list of to-dos. Right. And instead, we're focusing our awareness on what's really here and now through the senses, through our internal sensation system, being able to sense what's happening inside and what we're feeling, touching, seeing, smelling, and allow these senses to expand our awareness into this great present moment. And so in the dark room, it's kind of like an experience of being blind. People that are blind say that their other senses are then heightened. And so this is true. Your sense of touch is heightened, your hearing is heightened, but then also you're in the silence, and so the silence can be quite loud. That's the kind of paradox about it. There's for me, like a high pitch ringing sound that gets louder and louder as I drop into an even more still place. And these things are all heightened by taking away some of our external stimuli.
As you mentioned, you did, and you have a daily practice, but you did some increased meditative practices to prepare yourself and leading up. But did you find it was harder to drop into this meditative space when, like, we're talking about so much other sensory deprivation? So maybe those voices or the internal dialogue of the mind and its resistance to quieting and settling is like grappling and grasping at straws because it knows its last effort. Did you find that was heightened, or maybe even in the first day or two, or was it easy with no distraction to like drop in?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because my experience, I feel like, there's so much that goes into shaping what our experience is and why it was this way. But yeah, my experience on day one was very, very blissful, very easy to drop in, to really be in the pleasure of the practice and be under that, in the more subtle vibrations of the experience, and enjoy those vibrations. Yeah, for me, it felt really easy right away to drop in. There was like day 4, for instance, felt harder because there was the anticipation. One, I had been there for a while. It's like, okay. ready to see the sunrise. So the anticipation of like what I was going to do the next day. And also the muscle is a little bit more tired, the muscle of turning your awareness back in. And even like I felt like my eye muscles got a little bit tired because there was a lot of focus at the third eye. So I think there was just some exhaustion, because meditation is like any kind of exercise. It requires you to turn again and again and again back inside to the heart, back in, or maybe you're doing scanning or a mantra or something else, but you're turning your awareness back towards whatever this focus is that you've chosen to meditate on. I was mostly working with the heart energy and the breath in the heart, and so feeling the breath as it passes by the heart and staying in that place. And so this is this constant kind of like flexing of the muscles. And it builds strength to be able to, when you do that over and over again, you have more strength and it becomes easier and easier, just as anything else. But there is a point in which you reach your edge and you're like, oh, everything's really tired of the, the muscles are sore, the turning back. So I would say I had that experience. And I think for stronger meditators, they can go longer before they reach that fatigue. Like the Tibetan lineage has a 49-day dark room retreat as one of their major life initiations.
Wow.
And so you can imagine the kind of preparation, or I can't really imagine, but perhaps one could imagine the preparation of years of practice to be able to get oneself strong enough to be able to stay in for that prolonged period of time and be in the nothingness.
Right. And it really does require a very specific degree of mental and spiritual strength, stamina, and aptitude to actually hold your concentration, your consciousness, and your energy in that space. Because I want to be clear, you're not sitting there talking to yourself or like filling your time, but there's no lights on. Like you're emptying. And so, it's much, much, much different than most of us can conceive of. Like we talk about the 49-day period, it's like, what? Like, what does that even look like or feel like to just be in nothing for 49 days, to be like completely absolved in the universe or outside the self or so deeply in the self? Like it's hard to even imagine. And so we had talked previously about how most people are very sleep deprived, but also just generally physiologically exhausted. Like this is normal in our culture. People are running on empty. So even as you get in there initially, kind of feels like a vacation. You're like, great, meditation.
Well, and okay.
Yeah. And so pairing this with the question of like, logically you would think, okay, the more days I spend inside the dark room, the deeper I can go. But it sounds like this interesting experience where you went in and you went deep. You were able to just get right in it. And then sort of you were starting to be pulled out by the thinking mind or by the exhaustion. So I guess you also kind of alluded to this answer, but would you say that picking a time that is going to optimize the experience is based on maybe previous meditative experience or where you're currently at in your capabilities? Or
well, one of the things that comes to me on this topic is, so one of the podcasts that I listened to was this man who runs the dark room retreat in Oregon. I can't remember what it's called or what his name is, but he was talking about how, I think partly because of the popularity, because of Aubrey's podcast and different things, that they've been getting a lot of people that don't have any meditation experience. Like, I want to go try the dark room. And he was a little bit nervous about so many people or people coming in that didn't have a lot or very much meditation experience trying a dark room. But he said that it's been profoundly beneficial for everyone that has come through. That it might be more challenging, or people can really wrestle in there, but that they all come out the other side feeling better from the experience. So I do think that there is great validity to just doing it, that it is very beneficial for everyone to take time away to rest. And that was the other thing that he said that inspired me as well, was to just lay down and rest. And that's enough. And this was really profound for me, this like freedom to relax and rest and to sleep as much as you needed to sleep, and to not try to like force yourself to be sitting in meditation or doing something that you think you have to do it like this certain way, that it's okay to just lay down and sleep if that's what you really need. And so, yeah, in the beginning, that first night I did, go to bed early, and with this in mind, like, I had a little sitting meditation, and then I went to bed and I laid down and I got really good sleep. And I just, this permission to rest, this invitation to rest and to relax, felt very nourishing, very healing. That it doesn't have to be, doing the practice, or like I'm saying, like all this exercising, spiritual exercising. There, for me, and one of my teachers, Amy, said, there does come a time, you'll be resting and you're sleeping, and then you'll have had enough of that. And you want to get up and do something. And so I did tend to structure my routine, my day in that flow that felt somewhat natural for me, where I did sleep as long as I wanted, or as long as my body allowed. And then I have like morning routines that are more self-care practices. So typically I'll do some, most people might get up and like brush their teeth, wash your face. This is a self-care practice. Well, I also like to do some skin brushing and some self-massage. But normally I'll take a dry bristle brush and skin brush for like 5 minutes. But in there, I did probably an hour of skin brushing. And then, I'll kind of, the self-massage for me is more typically like I'm kind of putting oil on and maybe massaging a few places a little more, but 5-10 minutes. But in there, I did like over an hour of self-massage, like really finding places and working spots and staying, working the meridian lines and clearing a lot of energy. Spent the first couple of days, I was clearing a lot of energy. But yeah, those self-care practices, I think, really help set my day up to be very relaxed, and they set our nervous system into a parasympathetic state from the beginning. So we're mostly in that state, that relaxed state. So then naturally, like once I finished the massage and kind of rested a little bit longer, then at some point I wanted to get up and stretch, or use the bathroom and stretch. So do some yoga, and the yoga felt so good in there because I just really could take my time and be with my body in the different ways that it was needing to stretch. And so a very more feminine form. I did a variety of different yogas in there. So yeah, kind of probably 2 or 3 hours a day. And then at some point, in the shavasana, at the end of the yoga, you lay in the court. Well, sometimes shavasana 5-10 minutes. I was doing like 45 minutes, an hour of shavasana. Because why go anywhere? It felt so good. And then eventually, shavasana would end, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna sit up, and now I'm ready to sit for a little
Right.
while. And
Right.
so, and I had nice cushions. They had some nice bolsters and things. So I was able to make myself very comfortable
Hmm.
and just really drop in. And I think this kind of like 3 hour, 4 hour morning preparation before I was sitting was so helpful to, so that when I really was ready to sit,
Hmm.
I could stay for many hours
Yeah.
and comfortably and go very deep in stillness.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would recommend for new people to have some of those self-care practices that help bring us into states of relaxation. So taking
Hmm.
baths, getting massage, giving self-massage, resting, just laying down, sunning on the beach or on the grass. Like these are so nourishing and they really help us drop into more deeper states of relaxation so
Hmm.
that when we're ready to sit with our heart or be more in a kind of conscious meditative state, uh, it comes more naturally, drawing
Hmm.
on those other states.
Hmm. Definitely. And that's something that I'm a huge proponent of in my coaching and my work is the fact that there are so many opportunities for embracing the lessons that we are either seeking when we go for medicine, dark room, meditation retreat, initiation, or upon integrating such deep experiences, but to recognize that in daily life, as we talked about, like some people are going in without having meditated, and it's like addressing what is it in your daily life that's stopping you from taking your time with your morning routine? What is that narrative that you're constantly feeding off of? And I think that's one of the more productive parts of all these experiences. It's like, yes, there's the opportunity for expansion of consciousness and like connection with the heart. But there's also a factory reset to be like, oh, wait, let me dry brush for an hour and then do yoga for 2 hours and like let me be moved by the spirit. What you said when you were like, and then Shavasana was over, like all of a sudden, okay, here we are. Time to go on to the next thing. And then you feel that completion. Okay, time to go on to the next thing. And the reality is, okay, we don't always have this degree of flexibility. And again, that's why having a really specific, safe, and sacred space to like go into what that looks like is so powerful.
Mm.
Did you know drinking from a copper water bottle or storing water in copper vessels has been a sacred practice for centuries, for millennia? Ancient civilizations believed copper purifies water, boosts immunity, and balances energy, and modern science agrees. Copper has been shown to kill harmful bacteria naturally, support healthy digestion and glowing skin, enhance brain function and immunity, and in Ayurveda, it's believed to balance mind and body. Throughout the show, you've probably noticed me drinking from this copper water bottle. And I have had this for so long. I was not able to find the exact link, but I have found the one I will be buying next, and I linked it in the show notes. Modern purification demineralizes so much of our water. So storing water or drinking water from a copper vessel can help restore some mineralization. And it adds such good flavor to your water. If you're ready to upgrade your hydration, amplify your health, and embrace this ancient technique, grab your copper water bottle today. Again, the link is down below in the show notes.
So beginning to ask yourself where in your daily routine or your life can you start to embrace things more by choice rather than automatic programming or necessity. And so I'd imagine that's kind of what you're experiencing right now in this afterglow integration. Were there any very specific lessons or takeaways that came up for you, and how are you experiencing life now that you're back in the light? Because this was only yesterday you came out, right? Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh.
Wow. Okay. Well, I jumped right back into life here.
Mhm.
And so it's just like this beach life and going down to the beach and going out to get food with friends and then going to an ecstatic dance. And
Oh my. So you
yeah,
jumped right back in.
right back in. It was like, because it's my last week here and I really love this one particular ecstatic dance and it was going to be my last time to get to go to it. And I was kind of looking forward to it in the dark room too. Like, well, at least when I
Yeah.
get out, I'll go to the
Yeah.
ecstatic dance. And, but honestly, it was a lot. It was a lot for me. And, I feel like I would like to, I, I would like to set it up so where I wouldn't have to miss the ecstatic dance if that's my only chance to go or whatever that might be. But just set it up to where I am giving myself a day or two of quiet integration out in the world in a
Mhm.
more internal, personal way. So yeah, that was one kind of practical takeaway. And with ceremonies and other meditation retreats, I think this is just sound advice. Like when you're coming out, like give yourself a day or two of integration in nature with yourself,
Yeah.
and not a lot of other influences,
Yeah.
uh, even if they're lovely influences. So yeah, this was a takeaway. And like I said, it's just yesterday, so obviously I'm still processing. And should one even do a podcast all right after coming out?
Yeah.
We'll see. I think so far it's
Okay.
going pretty good. I've had a couple really beautiful conversations, like with my mom and
Hmm.
a friend. So it's nice to kind of be able to drop in and share a little bit of the energy that I'm in, while I'm in it with people that I hold closest to my heart.
Yeah.
Um, and then that feels like a real gift for our relationship and for them and myself, and
Mhm.
also for myself to hear and experience what comes out as I do start to share, because I don't know,
Right.
I don't know how this is really shaping me or going to shape me. What
Mhm.
I do know is that I very much enjoyed it, and I'm very grateful that I chose to do that.
Mhm.
And I really want to do another one. I want to do 8 nights, 7 days,
Mhm.
because they say like the DMT doesn't really turn on until 6 or 7 days.
Mm.
Your natural DMT starts to release, and this is where the inner lights come on, and you begin to see the energies in the room, and you can start to see your hand because you're seeing the energy of your hand. And
Wow.
and the third eye, DMT release, so having more of a psychedelic experience, uh,
Wow.
naturally from the time in the dark. I
Mhm.
love that the body does that, and I didn't really get to experience that this time. I could feel like a little bit of glimmer of like flashing lights coming in, and especially in the dream state when I would come out of dreaming at night,
Mhm.
in the morning, like the dream realm is so bright and light and more like your typical life. So that was still very palpable for a little
Mhm.
while. And there'd be like this kind of closing of that realm where the dream was still going on,
Mhm.
or flashes of it, or like remnants of parts of it, and visions. So I think that was the closest kind of hallucination that I had in there, was right at the end of my sleep time, where I was still seeing the dream realm, but I was awake and
Mhm.
watching it disappear, uh, slowly, for maybe take like a couple few minutes for it to fully disappear, and
Yeah.
in the darkness again.
Wow. It's these normal processes of life that all of a sudden we're able to look at with so much wonder and beauty and awe, and to just really slow down and question everything, but not in a skeptical way. It's just like, wow, what a process to wake up. Whereas most of us are waking up to an alarm and not even looking forward to it. And it's like here you're having this out of body experience.
I know that I do feel a deeper sense of peace and more spaciousness in meditation, more ease in meditation, and more ease really in life in general. This feels like a common effect or benefit.
Yeah.
And as far as like the folks that are doing the 21 days and the 49 days, yeah, there's got to be something to it, for them to want to go in there for that long. And like I said, my teacher, one of my teachers, she's done many 7-day, 6-day darkroom, but she hasn't done a 21 day yet, and she really wants to. And so this kind of hit me of like, she really wants to, because she knows there's something that's going to happen that's really special, that will change the fabric of your reality for the better. And so I feel, and I have that with now. I really want to do it an 8-night, 7-day. I know that will be really good for me. And I know that it will be challenging in certain ways, and there will be moments of struggle, but there will also be so much bliss and so much ease and so much relaxation and such a depth of intimacy of really learning more about who I am in this incarnation and this egoic reality, and also like the deeper sense of who I truly am. Really communing with that part that connects us all.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, it sounds like it was such a positive experience and is highly recommended. Yeah, it actually is pretty accessible for beginners. And I think everything is you get out what you put in. You had a certain sense of security and optimism, and your why was pretty strong, like knowing why you were doing it and that there was something on the other side. And so I think that sounds like another key part to it is creating intention around the experience without too much expectation, because there's so much that can come
intention is that I know this would be really good for me. And I don't really know why. And I did have some prayers in the beginning. It was more like, Lord, help me.
Yeah.
That would be my prayer.
Yeah.
But the why and the intention was like, I know something deep within me knows that this, whether it's a day, 2 days, 5 days, 21 days, it's going to be really good for me. And that's why.
Well, I'm so excited that you were able to follow that voice and that intuition. And yeah, you're just paving the way for others to do the same. Oh, one question that I want to clarify. You're not like locked in this room. You can get out. So people who are like afraid that you're some sort of prisoner, no, there is an exit.
No, there's a door. It does not have a lock on it. You're free to go at any time. And I mean, I think that there probably are some darkroom retreats that have a little bit more structure around them. There's someone there kind of like, maybe you come a day early and do some practices or talk with someone, and then they explain how it's going to go. And this had the receptionist, she asked me if I'd done one before, and maybe she was going to give me a little bit of a something, but she didn't. She was like, oh, you've been here before? Okay, well, here's your room. And that was it, and I was like, how do you get the AC to work? And we figured that out. But other than that, my friend Arjuna had brought food each day. I got 2 meals, so that helped me keep track of time. Like, oh, brunch is here. Okay, great. I know that it's about midday. And then dinner would come, and I knew that after dinner I would start to get ready for bed. Because if you're going to fast in there, then you're really taking away another element of time. I I did fast at the end. I just did a 24-hour
Mm.
fast on tea, but I thought I would like to do more fasting in there, like maybe
Hmm.
3 days of fasting. But I
Yeah.
still want someone to bring me the tea so that I know when the time is.
Yeah. Right.
That was my only, kind
This
of,
is like the small thread connecting you back to
yeah,
reality in the outside
yeah,
world.
yeah. Maybe I'll get to the point where I don't come knocking on my door. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be here until you come knock at the end,
Oh my.
and that'll be another threshold. But I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Well, you'll get there. It sounds like this is how it works. Working your way up.
Baby step.
I'm so excited to attend one. I need to really get it on my calendar because you've gotten me really excited about it.
Yeah,
And
I think you'll love it.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a matter of acting on it. And yeah, just like I said, taking that charge over your life and fitting it in your schedule, even though we like to wrap ourselves up in all the other stuff that there is.
Yeah, but that is another takeaway that I have is that when I go home, I really want to set the intention to make a little mini at-home darkroom retreat where
Mhm.
I'm do probably at least 2 nights,
Hmm.
and so I have a full day,
Hmm.
and I have my eye mask, and I put my dark curtains up on the windows, and I just stay in my room for
Yeah.
a full 24 hours with my eye mask
Hmm.
and let my process unfold that way
Hmm.
and carve out that time for myself.
Yeah.
Probably around the new moon or a time when I'm a little more inward. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I was on my moon cycle while I was in the dark room retreat, and I think this was
Mm.
really conducive to that more kind of inner, intimate time for a woman's cycle to
Yeah.
not want to be out in the world so much.
Right.
So this is really conducive for a kind of personal retreat time, and I see myself doing more of that in the
Mm.
future, just for
Hmm.
myself at home.
Yeah. In the womb at the time that you're connecting with your womb and your process. And again, this whole shedding and letting go, it's just very, very synonymous there. So a great fit. And yeah, bringing up the mask, it's like, okay, you talked about 24 hours, but for someone who doesn't really meditate, putting on a mask for maybe an hour, you've got yourself a darkroom retreat, like the beginning of one. So, yeah, it's just really kind of dipping your toe in and seeing how it feels and how it fits and pushing your own limits.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you a couple fun questions before we sign off here.
Okay.
So, on your spiritual bucket list, if you could explore one mystical or spiritual experience tomorrow, what would it be?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Lake Atitlan, and this place has been calling to me, and I feel
Mhm.
like it's a vortex or mystical experience is supposed to happen there, and I'm not sure what it is.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, and so I'll just throw that out there. Not that I want to blow up that place along
Yeah.
with all the other vortexes, but c'est la vie.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
reality is we'll be lucky if one person even watches this and actually like acts on booking a flight
right.
all the way there and like
That,
doing the damn thing.
that's
So,
right. Yeah.
your favorite awakening tool. So there's so many meditation, breathwork, journaling, to name a few that are really accessible, but what is your go-to for connection to highest source or self-discovery?
I have a strong affinity for ayahuasca.
Hmm.
So I would say that that medicine in particular really helps me
Hmm.
connect with the divine in a way that is very profound. Uh,
Hmm.
and so that's kind of what first came to mind was baths, which might be a little more accessible,
Yeah,
but love
you do
love
love your baths. I do know
bath,
that.
and it's such an easy way for me to really drop in and let
Yeah.
go and relax and unwind and listen.
Yeah.
So those two.
Yes, yes. Love them. Love them both. Soul food. What's the most nourishing meal you've ever had for your soul? Maybe in a literal sense, maybe in a figurative sense, maybe both. And I know you're a foodie. This is, again, another topic that we could go on and on about. The Ayurveda.
Yeah. Yeah, I have, well, it's funny because I have this somewhat aversion to the question of what's your favorite.
Mhm.
This is a little bit of a trigger for me. I'm like, don't make me pick. I'll just say, on the literal sense, one of my favorite foods are chocolate chip cookies. And I really love making them and baking them and sharing them with people. And I feel like there's something about this like mama cookie energy that is so good.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like it. It's what you picture when you picture like going to visit your grandma, which is just the essence of love. It's
Yeah.
the symbolism is the chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's
And
so
so there's something about that that feels like real soul food for me.
yeah.
And the sharing them with others in that way.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's probably some other esoteric answers that I could give as well.
Yeah, but I love that one. I love that. Again, another loaded question. Cosmic playlist. If you could pick one song as the soundtrack to your spiritual journey, and this is kind of a right now type question because I know that changes. But again,
Oh, it would
you're a
be The
DJ,
Goddess by Alana Collins.
which is the intro, by the way. Rewind, or it'll be coming up in a minute here. But yes, absolutely.
Yeah, right now that one is playing on repeat. So I'm
Yeah.
very excited about it. And it is time to wake up.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, wake up the
That's why
goddess.
we're here. That's why we're having this conversation. Oh my gosh. Well, Wren, I'm gonna end it there because that's just a high note and so perfect. And you've given us so much valuable information to sit with and chew on. And I thank you so, so much for taking time out of your Mexico adventure to talk with us. Do you have any final remarks or closing words that you want to share?
Well, thank you so much for having me and for reaching out to me at the time that you did. It felt so nourishing to hear because we do struggle in this life, and I was going through some personal struggles coming here on this trip and dealing with some internal processes of low self-worth and just not feeling good enough or sometimes too much in certain ways, and it's just so beautiful when life sends you these angels, and you were one of a few that came to me during this dark time that was like, we believe in you, we love you, we see you, thank you so much for shining your light in my life. And I
Yeah.
just want you to know how much of an impact that made on me. And
As I'm calling you to reach out about the same thing. So this is why you just follow the guidance that you're given. I mean, I really so strongly was like, Wren, that's who I need to talk to next. And yeah, I mean, again, divine timing. Where can people reach you if they want to follow you, know more, learn more, get in touch?
all my social channels are Wryn Magdalyn, and that's with a Y.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, on Instagram and Facebook and Telegram and all the places. I'm Wryn Magdalyn.
Perfect. So beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Wren. I love you, sister, and I can't wait to talk again soon.
Love you too. Blessings on life.
It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to wake up. Wake up, thank God.